welcome to MySmartTech TV. My name's Jess and I'm your host. And today I'm joined by Audrey Melnik. So welcome, Audrey.
Thanks, Jess. Nice to be here.
Now, Audrey, you've gone from having your own startups to now helping others with theirs. Can you talk to me a little bit about your journey and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, so I started my working on my first startup in 2011, which, yes, it's 11 years ago now. And yeah, I moved over to Silicon Valley in 2012 and just kind of, yeah, the launch of my first startup was crazy. I was doing press all over the world and got 165,000 unique visitors in the first 6 weeks and stuff like that. So it was really amazing.
What was the startup? What business?
Well, it was actually in the dating space. It was a way to get feedback from your ex. So everyone always giggles about that.
That's great. So how did that work? So you get feedback on the relationship to take.
Yeah. So like, say you went out with someone and then you never heard from them again, and you wanted to get closure, and really more about like, wanting to learn so you can improve yourself. And so you would basically like reach out to them through our platform and they could fill out a whole bunch of reasons of like,
well, that's great.
All of that kind of stuff. So it was called What Went Wrong. Yeah, so I worked on that for a bit, and then pivoted to a tool that I'd actually been building for that startup, which was a content curation on my social media. So I just wanted to like have it kind of have posts just going to go out because I had no time, because I was a solo founder and I just wanted to so my next startup which was my pivot, was called Zootrock, and that was a content curation platform for social media, and it just surfaced up relevant articles in your space to share out there. And there are a bunch of platforms out there that do that now. It's probably, again, a bit ahead of my time, but so I did that for a couple of years, went through like 500 startups, which is one of like the top 3 accelerator programs in the world, raised some money and stuff. But I realized that I didn't really want to be a startup founder, and I wanted to go back to my roots, and my roots are actually IT consulting. I've got a software engineering background and been business analyst and product manager and many different roles in the IT space. And so I wanted to kind of go back to those consulting roots, but stay in the startup sector. So I thought about like the problems that I'd experienced as a startup founder and what I saw all my other founder friends experiencing. And it was this frustration around not being able to execute all the things you want to, because you're constantly stymied by the backlog of work that your developer needs to do. And so I developed this methodology, which is called customer journey optimization. And it's all about empowering the non-technical team members to be able to experiment and iterate on the customer journey, but without developer involvement. And so I spent several years in Silicon Valley working with clients, startup clients over there. And as kind of I was trying to figure out how to name it. And so, I started out calling it funnel hacking and, and that kind of stuff. And it became this customer journey optimization methodology. But in the meantime, like probably 2-3 years ago, the term product-led growth has emerged, which is really what I have been doing, right? So it's all about empowering people to sign up and get to that aha moment. But like, if you've ever done a startup, or you'll understand that you have this grand idea that everyone's going to get it as soon as they sign up, and that never happens, right? So what we're doing is, we want to be able to like track what's happening when people sign up, and then see where they drop off. And based on where they drop off, come up with ideas for how we want to improve it. But if you've got this bottleneck in your developer backlog, then it's hard for you to like do that experimentation and iteration on that customer journey, because you got to wait for the developer to get to it, and it's competing with all these other initiatives. So the idea around this methodology is all about being able to make those changes really quickly without having to do any development.
And what's some examples of how that could look in terms of an example of a change that someone might be able to make, if you've got any examples there?
Yeah, so it can be as simple as changing the text in an email. You would think that that's actually quite simple, but a lot of emails are, and the content and the structure of those emails are actually sourced from the developer's code base. And so it's not easy to do it, or even just like surfacing up relevant information in an email pertinent to that customer's specific journey, like what they've done and what they haven't done. And actually targeting them based on those particular things. Like, so it's really all about that. It's not just about email. It's also about like in-app, like what can you do to like bump them along in that journey inside the app. And there are also a whole suite of tools called in-product activation tools that you can use that don't require the developer involvement. What it does require is a little bit of plumbing under the hood to get that started and surface up the data about that customer's journey. And so that's really where we come in with our methodology and our approach. And when we work with customers on, and usually we're working with customers that want to implement a product-led growth approach. So we do these customer journey optimization projects with them.
And yeah, so obviously your current business is unlocking growth, and you work with startups to help them grow. You mentioned some of those sort of methodologies there, but is there anything else talk me through some of the other things that you do?
Yeah, I mean, so everything kind of that we build or we develop is all around supporting companies in this particular way. So we have our customer journey optimization projects, but also we do growth advisory where we help clients to transform to become product-led growth organizations, and that actually does require some organizational change and those kinds of things. And then the other thing that we have is what we call our SaaS Rocketship program, and that's actually a 12-week course. We have online modules that you can, take at your own pace. And then we also have coaching sessions every week to answer questions and that kind of stuff. So that's another part of what we do. And then as we go, when we discover that there are like gaps in the tool sets that, we're using with our customers, we develop our own SaaS products, our own software products to kind of fill some of those gaps. So we have unlocking simulation, unlocking signals, and unlocking attribution. So they all solve different problems. And then just this week, we've launched what we call Rocketship Scholars. And that's our approach to really kind of what we see is there's just such a dearth of great growth talent in Australia, and we want to help solve that problem. And so we're offering 5 free scholarships to our Rocketship coaching program for promising people in Australia looking to get into startups and growth careers.
I've got so many questions. Okay, first question. So that sounds so great. So first question, talk me through who, in terms of the ideal candidates for both those programs, what would that look like, starting with the scholars and then the other one? What kinds of companies and what kinds of individuals would be the right fit for that program?
Yeah, so what's really interesting is what we found is the best profile for an unlocking growth consultant is someone who can sit on both sides of business and tech. Which is quite a rare set of skills. And so we found that quite challenging finding those people in Australia. So, so from a potential like Rocketship Scholars candidate perspective, it would be good if they have some like aptitude for technology. They don't have to be software engineers, but at least, some kind of they're happy to pick up new tools and try them out, and they're not afraid of them. And then, if they're also interested in like thinking about the psychology around a customer's journey, because that's really like what you're doing. That's so what we find is that you've really got to have a foot in both camps of thinking about, like, there's technical ways to implement things, but then you've really got to think about the users of the products and like how they might be feeling going through this journey, and how you can bump, what we call bumping them along on the journey. So so that's from a talent perspective. And then from so we do have our clients going through our coaching program as well. We just had one of our clients put 38 of their staff on the program, and so those are clients that, you know, really want to move towards the product-led growth approach and want some help in kind of transforming that mindset to have a product-led mindset and skilling up their teams into that, so that their tool is something that they can then experiment, like their software product is something they can experiment and iterate on that customer journey.
And I sort of read an article and you mentioned, you know, some of the companies that do it really well, Atlassian and Canva. Can you talk to me, what does it look like when a company does do product-led growth well, and what does that look like?
Yeah, I think one of the key things is about personalization. So you want to feel like what let me go back to, like, what's a jarring experience when you're using a new tool? Well, that might be, I've done this, this, and this, and then I get an email telling me how to do it. Yeah. Like, really? Like,
the spinning wheel of doom, I call it, when you get the loading comes up, you're like, ah.
Yeah, no, but it's like you've actually done those steps, and then they're sending you a welcome email saying, hey Jess, here are some things you can do to, like, you know, with our product. And like, that's just a generic blunt force instrument. And we have the technology now to be much more personalized. So that's what good product-led growth is about, is like knowing who you are, knowing like what you're trying to achieve, and then serving up the right kind of information to you to be able to do what you're trying to do. Because the whole point is we're in a real attention war for people's, you know, attention, right? So you'll say, oh, I found this cool tool on Google, let me try it, I want to test it out. And you need to get to, you know, in that very first session, you need to get to what we consider initial value, right? Like, you need to see that there is some value. Like the Facebook example is, you added one friend, right? You saw some value from the product. You know, then there's the aha moment, the activation. And Facebook's example is, you've added 7 friends. But like, what we help you do is figure out what that is for your product and how you can instrument that to get people to really kind of see value in your product, that they're ready to actually sign up and pay.
Yeah, and it shows, you know, the product is doing, you know, is getting the customers and kind of growing the brand as well. I want to switch gears and take a look at the Australian sort of tech landscape. Are there certain industries that would benefit within tech, that would benefit more from these skills, or is it quite you know, quite applicable to every industry?
From our perspective, like every company should have like an ideal customer profile. So our ideal customer profile, which doesn't exclude all the other companies that we work with, but is really like a B2B SaaS business, right? So you've got a subscription service, you've got a free trial, people sign up, you want to get them to that aha moment and ready to pay. It's quite agnostic from a vertical perspective. However, like, we work with fintechs, we work with marketplaces, we work with people in the lifestyle and health space, companies in that space. We work with companies that actually have physical devices as well, like they have a physical component and a software component. So it's really like, it's across the board.
Are there any industries that you think need it the most, that you're saying, that are just like, wow, they're really...
Not off the top of my head. Like, I just feel like I actually think in Australia, where it's such a nascent point, that every industry has that like opportunity to improve on that. It's just that, yeah, there's still too many blunt instruments in how people are being nurtured on their journeys.
That's interesting. Well, I've got 2 more questions. First of all, I guess for anyone listening today, what's one key takeaway that they can do to help with their product-led growth? Something like a simple tip.
Oh, well, I mean, I think the thing that we find when we go into any new client is they are not necessarily tracking that journey in the right way. If you don't know what people are doing, you can't improve upon it, right? So track the journey and then have metrics so that you understand like what your baselines are and you can figure out whether you're actually moving those metrics.
That's great. And finally, how do people find out more? How do they get involved? How do they apply for the program?
Yeah, so I mean, our website is unlockinggrowth.co, and you'll find access to our Rocketship Scholars program if you're interested in applying for that. Get in before March 20th, and yeah, there's contact forms on there as well if you want to talk to us about running a project together.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time. It was really interesting chatting with you. It's that, you must see some fantastic and interesting companies in the work that you do. Anything I've missed? Anything else that you wanted to cover today?
No, I think that's it. I think the thing that we really just want to make sure is that like Australia really needs to like move towards a digital first economy and stop digging things out of the ground. So we want to help Australia have those skills to kind of move the needle on digital products
and lead the way. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. We'll put all the details in the show notes, and good luck with everything.
Thanks a lot, Jess. Bye-bye.
Thanks.